there, and welcome to the Thriving Blind series of interviews with people that are succeeding without sight. Hey, I'm Kristen Smedley, and I am so happy that you landed here. Whether you are a parent raising a blind child to not just survive their diagnosis, but to thrive, or if you yourself have a blindness or visual impairment and you're trying to figure out how to not just survive, but to thrive, you landed in a great spot. I'm so happy you're here. And you can get direct access, up close direct access every week to mentors like the person you're about to meet through our Thriving Blind Academy membership program. Check that out at thrivingblind.com. You'll get all the information there. But for now, let's jump in and see who we're meeting today. Hey everybody, it's Kristen Smedley. Welcome back to another episode in our Thriving Blind series. This is what's funny. I am so excited that we have Mike Mulligan joining us today. And here's the funny part. I have to stop saying I'm not a fan of Instagram anymore, because I do love the power of Instagram. I am not a fan of my brain and my patients trying to harness the power of Instagram. So the funny thing is, and I kept thinking to myself, how is Instagram and the blind community did not seem to add up in my head until I started finding tons of moms and teachers of the visually impaired on Instagram. So I have been studying Instagram, studying how to use it better, how to harness the power, and lo and behold, connect with Mike on Instagram, and he is a certified, I wrote it down, I'm looking at it, because I had to make sure I get the title right, which never ends up being what we all say, but a certified orientation and mobility specialist, right?
Correct. Yep.
Oh,
correct.
I'm a fast learner.
Good job.
But the best part is that Mike's handle, I think that's what they call it, on Instagram is at Blind on the Move. And if that doesn't just sum up exactly what I want to talk about today, and exactly the perception that I want people to have in their head, is that, look, blind people are on the move. And when they have the right skills and resources, they're on the move independently and get to where they're going. And like in my house, leaving the sighted people way far behind in the dust. So Mike, thanks so much for responding to me on Instagram, and for being there, and for being here. I'm so glad you can join us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Where are you actually physically located?
So I live in New Hampshire.
Oh, all right. Up in New Hampshire.
Yeah. So up in the New England area. Yeah.
Oh, wait. And so all the other moms of kids that are visually impaired and kids that have been in mobility lessons and other mobility instructors are probably thinking, ooh, are they brutal winters for you to have to be out there?
The winter times are definitely challenging, trying to do lessons outdoors.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah.
So for those that might be new to the journey of raising a blind child, or we have so many people in our audience that just tune in to get a better understanding of blindness, tell us a little bit about what it is that you do.
Right. So I am a certified orientation mobility specialist, which really is helping people who are blind learn to travel independently, safely, and confidently. So that's really the goal of what an orientation mobility instructor does. And there's a wide range of ages that we work with. So I predominantly work with 18 to 100, pretty much. So I work with pretty much any adult. And they can vary so much depending on their circumstance. So I go to them, I go to their house, or some are in college. So I join them at their university, help them learn their college campus. So it's a wide variety of people I work with, and even ability and skill levels. But the goal really is to help them travel safely and independently. And that varies on the person and what they're looking to do. And we just try and strive and reach that goal.
Wow. So I didn't realize that you were 18 and older, which makes me just love you and your work even more. I mean, I so love and appreciate all of the mobility instructors that worked with my boys from birth to high school graduation. But as I was watching them have so much success and independence and confidence, like you said, I was so nervous for them to leave. I mean, Michael, of course, Michael wanted to go to college 1,000 miles away. I'm like, yeah. I said to his whole team, we have gone over the confidence, like stop working on confidence. He's going too far away. But I will tell you, I didn't realize that folks like you existed in the college realm, because in Tennessee, where Michael started, they didn't provide anybody. The
Really? Huh?
school had to start fighting to have somebody come. So I did it. Michael was stuck with me. That was fun.
Yeah.
And then, but at Penn State, where he transferred to, I had intended to spend the week up there memorizing that camp. Can you imagine my child has to go to a bigger campus and we have to memorize that one, right? But they did supply two people that actually did different shifts every day. And I was able to get a ton of work done because they were working with Michael on the campus. So
Oh,
I
great.
so
Yeah.
appreciate that you guys do that. Now let's back up. So I'm saying, confidence and independence, and it's a foundational building blocks to get to
Right.
that point where Michael was so confident that he would be able to conquer a campus. How do you, when you have a new client or somebody do you have a lot of folks that have just recently lost their vision and need to step into this?
It's quite a caseload is seeing people who are, even in their middle, having some sort of disease and are just brand new to this vision thing. So a lot of it is making sure to go slow at their pace, but to really build up that confidence that they would really be able to regain some independence they lose because of their vision loss.
Yeah, yeah, and I did. You'll appreciate this, because I love that you keep using the words independence and confidence, because that is the goal of
Right.
mobility. People think that it's so that. I remember years ago, I was under the impression that this was so that the boys would have kind of an awareness of their surroundings, but really would be guided by somebody else. And
Right.
then I'm a little bit of a slow learner in this whole thing. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm watching all these blind adults that can run circles around me. And now my boys can do that too, that the goal really is to go from point A to point B completely independent.
Right. And many people can do it. They just need a little training and instruction, some of that confidence building.
Yeah, yeah. So what do you see as, 18 and older? Is there an age range you notice it's a bigger struggle for them to do these lessons? Does it not matter? Are there any other factors that make, one group more challenging, looking at this as a challenge than others?
Hard to say because in each age group there's a variation of ability levels, but seniors especially seniors are the most difficult because they're new to this whole thing. They've probably been driving most of their lives, so losing that ability, it can be very isolating and frustrating. But the ones who've gone through like the school system have had instruction in the past, they tend to be up for more adventurous activities such as public transportation and traveling through a big city and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a good point, the public transportation. So can you walk us through maybe what one of the days I know that this week is actually we'll talk about what's happening right now in a minute. What is your typical, outside of this crazy situation, what would a typical day look like or a lesson look like?
So yeah, I see probably two people a day, so one in the morning and one in the afternoon. That's kind of the goal. But in New Hampshire, I have to drive quite a bit to see people, so a lot of my day is driving. And I'm really the only orientation mobility specialist in the state for adults. If anyone needs some training, they be seeing me pretty much. So that means spread out on how far I can see somebody or how far I have to travel. See somebody, if it's somebody who's never used a cane before, it's a lot of cane instruction, learning how to use a cane, because safety is really a big priority. And but then sometimes I see people who have guide dogs who are just learning to familiarize themselves, maybe they're downtown of their town, so their main. So that's one thing I like about my job is I get to new situations in town, really creative on how to help all these different people.
That's awesome. Now, up in New Hampshire, I'm trying to visualize this, because
Yeah.
is it a lot of transit, or is it more of things are spread out and you're doing a lot of walking? Is there a mix?
So there's a mix. There's a few big cities up here that have some form of public transportation. Before I moved up, Boston, where there was quite a bit of public transportation. But up here, there's really buses. That's kind of main. Uber and Lyft are big in some of the state here. But the majority of people I see in rural areas, which can be really challenging because even walking distance, there's not that much from them. So it's hard for them to even walk, get places. So, but so we've got some of the bigger cities with then a lot of rural kind of areas.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, and I'm trying to think of our entire audience and not just hone in on Kristen Smedley's life and how you can help mine. So I'm trying to think of everybody. But I'm just thinking about what it took for my oldest blind son to be able to be fully confident that he could conquer that campus, albeit a small campus, but it was in Nashville. I mean, he also got to know that city and all.
Right.
I mean, I know what his one experience was like throughout school. What would your advice be to parents of kids that are coming up through schools before they get to you for, say, a college campus? What are some things that they should be doing to make sure that their blind child is ready to work with somebody like you on a college campus, no matter where it is?
Probably the biggest one that I've noticed is the kids who have the opportunity to practice and even fail at certain things. Helps that problem solving skill and actually really does boost confidence for the kids who don't get much opportunity to experience what it feels like to get disoriented, a little scared even, and find their way out of that. They lose that opportunity to really build that ability to problem solve. They move on to college, work, whatever it might be. So really giving them the opportunity, if there's out there they can start practicing with earlier is always better. So I recommend that.
I got to tell you, I want to save this. I want to take this snippet of that clip that you just said and share it with parents everywhere, because I think that is if it's not the most important thing in parenthood, then it's in the top 3, that the kids have to be out there failing. And then, like you said, I'm actually going to write it down, problem solving, because I tend to talk a lot about let them fail. At home, it's when it's time to fail and pick them back up. Of course, years ago, the people at our emergency room weren't all thrilled with my philosophy there, because they actually called the one room to get stitches at our hospital the Smedley Suite for a while, because my boys, they kept breaking open eyebrows trying new sports. But the thing, I think that communicating it the way that you just said it, it just rings true better, that or sits better. Problem solving, that's what they're developing, in those problem solving skills. And then switching that a little further in the blind community, I put this post out on LinkedIn about I see blind adults and mostly the ones that have been blind for a long time or their whole lives, I see them as more beneficial employees than sighted employees. And one of the major skills I've seen is problem solving.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, they've been practicing this and figuring out, especially in your line of work, they're having to figure out how to get from one spot to another, all the different things that can come along the way. And let me ask you this, what do you do about construction when there's construction? And I mean, like, so what are some skills, or what do you work with a person on that's cane training when there's construction on the sidewalk and stuff like that?
Yeah, construction's definitely challenging. It depends how big it is and where it is, but sometimes it means backtracking and crossing the street side. Sometimes there was always a police officer at construction sites. It was by law, so you can ask the police officer for some assistance or another pedestrian. Wow. But construction is challenging. I've heard some of my clients, they just ask the instructor and a construction worker them bypass the construction. So, yeah, you just give more options to people so they can realize, okay, and if it's really bad, maybe you have to call an Uber to get past it. I mean, if you have to, you have to. So, really developing.
I love that you're pointing out that there's multiple options to solve the problem. Because, and that's a lot of times people say to me, oh my gosh, how do your boys, they still can navigate and there's construction. I'm like, I don't know how they figure stuff out. They figure it out. But I will say you hit on a really important point, and I do a lot of work in resilience outside of the blind community because I've learned so much about it from the blind community. But one of the most number one easiest ways out of something and to be resilient is something people are never wanting to do. And that's ask for help.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that wild? Like, we as humans just don't want to ask. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah. And that's a skill to teach, if someone either kind of has it or they don't, there's just times you do need to ask for help. So that's even what I work with people on some lessons, is learning to just ask the cashier for assistance to find something, or construction by the construction site. Yeah.
Yeah, that was such a hard one for my oldest son. But I will say this, in his speech at graduation, he did, one of the highlights was he talked about, you need to ask for help. And I was like, I was gonna message all of his former teachers to say, can you believe that he actually, like, he got it, 12 years later. Yeah, and it's a skill that, and like I said, people just, they don't want to do it. And then once you do, you're like, why didn't I ask somebody to help me with this sooner? Of course, my second son goes a little far with that, and he just doesn't even try half the time and has somebody do it for them. Of course, he says to me, see all the joy I'm bringing to the world by having these people so happy to help. They're very different, my guys. Yeah. Anywho, so let's just, I don't want to spend a ton of time in this, but I do think it's valuable information, as long as we keep it as positive as we can, because I can go sour real quick on the current situation of the world. Mm-hmm. But I know that a lot of parents are wondering about this, and a lot of blind folks themselves are wondering about this. What do we do right now, or how are you handling this whole situation of social distance and all that kind of stuff? Are you still able to do lessons? Are you having any pushback from municipalities? I mean, what are you doing?
So I just actually got the all clear to start seeing people this week.
Oh, wow.
And with orientation mobility, I have the luxury of just meeting somebody outside, and I can keep my distance. So I'm able to socially distance while I'm teaching for the most part. I have to be a little selective on what clients I'm seeing, because I do see a lot of seniors in assisted living, but that doesn't sound like that's going to happen for a while. Yeah. So I have to hold off on that. But it's definitely challenging to reintroduce these things. That's why I've been doing a little more of the video side of orientation and mobility, just as a way of at least providing something. It's always better to be in person, and I prefer to be in person. It just makes things a little bit easier. But I think that's a new kind of way of doing some instruction virtually. Yeah. That's
one of the other big things that I appreciate about what you do, is that gets shut down to be in person, and then you turn on the camera. I saw the one where your daughter came in. You're like, oh yeah, work from home, trying to make a video, and she comes walking in.
Yeah.
That's what actually caught my eye to it, because I'm like, oh my gosh, he's still teaching the lessons and just found this new way, because so many people I know just were like, I can't work my job, so I'm just going to sit here and sulk. And some of them are still sulking. I'm like, you guys, we got to pivot here, because it's not changing all that fast, But not only did you pivot, and then it was just it's what's happening all over the world, that there's the kids that are home and they're showing up in the background. And she walked in. That was so cute. But I think that is so valuable and brilliant, actually, that you were able to just, okay, let's turn on the camera and still talk about it and still get the lessons out. And then the one thing I wanted to point out for folks that still are trying to get their heads around a mobility lesson, you mentioned a lot of your clients, it works because you can socially distance. So that's the key, though, of these orientation mobility lessons, is that you're not holding their hand and walking through a city or a town. You're behind them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very rare that I have to physically touch somebody. Most of the time I'm either behind them, letting them practice things. I just step in when it's really a safety issue coming up, but it's really a distance kind of teach.
Yeah. So for folks that are not as familiar, the mobility instructor stands quite a bit behind the person that they're training with. And like my boys, they had to figure it out. They knew that they had to map it out where they were going to go, and then stop and do the street crossings. And the instructor is there for safety, like you mentioned, in case something happens. Actually, we were walking last night in a little town near us because I love my kids. I love all three of them, but we have been looking at each other for over 2 months, and they're high school and college. Like, they are at the point where they don't talk to me that much. They are out living their lives, and thank you very much. So am I, and we come together. And for the first couple of weeks, we were like, oh, we're playing games and eating at the dinner table again. And now we're like, okay,
Yeah.
I've had it with you. So anyways, we go into this little town near us just to get some ice cream and walk around because it was gorgeous yesterday. And we haven't been out walking together, all four of us, in a really long time. So here we are, two with canes and two without, and my boys were all over me about how terrible I am with street crossings and the corners. But then we had like an hour where we were talking as we were walking about all the different ways that they learn to navigate, and how I am so impatient as a sighted person. But then like Mitchell, he knew the whole town because it's one of the ones that his mobility instructor took him to.
Yeah.
They've had the town hop because you probably realize this too. They memorize it. And then it's like, okay, wait a minute, we got to go to the next one and the next one. So Mitch said, oh, wait a minute, we're at this crossing. He goes, behind us is a auto mechanic. And he starts telling us about the guys here when he was on his lessons, to the point of the instructor being way far behind, making sure that Mitch could navigate. It just so happened that every time he had a lesson in that town, he would get to this street corner at lunchtime. And all the mechanics would be coming out to go across to the sandwich place, and they would sit and chat with him. He met all these people.
Wow.
This is something I never even knew. And they would all walk across, and I had no idea till there we were in the town. It was pretty funny. But that's a very long, crazy story to reinforce the fact that you say that you stay way far behind and make sure that they're safe. And that's how my guys have built those skills and the foundation of being able to then go off to college campuses. Look, we're hoping Mitch goes off to college. He's home because he says he's like, Mom, I have such a great deal here. Why would I go anywhere? I'm like,
yeah,
because you need to.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up here, because I know you got to get back to all the great stuff that you're doing, but I wanted to see, do you have any takes on, in the book Thriving Blind, at the end of every interview, I wanted folks to just highlight maybe one either funny or cool or whatever thought that would be a bright side to blindness. Because everybody always thinks, it's the worst thing in the world, and there are some funny things and some perks, as my boys call it. But do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, there's actually a lot of bright sides. I've been working with a client now. He's about to, him and his fiance are about to have a baby. And he's just, the training that he's getting is just making him more confident for this new chapter of his life. I know he knows, and I know there's going to be challenges to that, but just that life still goes on, that, he could still experience the joy of having a baby and raising a baby, even though he's losing his vision and he's struggling with that. But hearing those kind of stories of people really makes my really meaningful and happy to do it.
Oh, that's so sweet that they're having a baby. That's cute.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thanks so much for the work that you do, because honestly, the independence that my boys have because of instructors like you, it's a skill. I mean, I'm a natural teacher. I've always wanted to be a teacher my whole life, but it's something I don't know that I would ever have been equipped to teach them. Because you guys have such a great style of giving them the confidence and the skills and backing up. We moms tend to hover. So yeah. I so appreciate the work that you do with giving so many people independence and confidence, and then they go off from there and accomplish great things. So thanks for the work that you do. Thank you for pivoting and still doing the videos while you're in quarantine. And tell everybody tell them again your Instagram and if there's other places that they can find your stuff.
Yeah, so I, like mentioned earlier, I guess handle is Blind on the Move. So I've been doing YouTube videos, and Instagram have been my main kind of things, and it's also Blind on the Move on YouTube. A lot of the videos I made was kind of also because I work with people, and then I don't get to see them for quite a bit, and a lot of times they forget some things I taught them. So I wanted to have these videos that they can go back and review some of the skills I taught them in between. I found that to be really helpful. So I'm just trying to be able to reach more people. Because I'm the only one up here in New Hampshire, it's hard to reach everybody and spend adequate amount of time with one. So if I could find ways to just reach more people, help more people out, that's really what my goal is.
I love it. I love it. Well, Blind on the Move. I just love that whole name. It just you're very good at figuring out exactly what you do and putting it in there. And I love the concept of, people think that blind people are stationary and they can't go anywhere, and you just totally flip that right upside down, and they're on the move. And I always say with my boys, I have to catch them. They're not trying to catch up to me. I'm trying to catch up to them. So I love it. All right. Thanks so much for all the work you do. And thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
And everybody, you can find this, join our Facebook community to see more of episodes like this, and also go to kristensmedley.com and get on the Thriving Blind email list. And we'll see you next time. What a great chat, right? I hope you got a ton of takeaways from that conversation. And if you know other people that can benefit from it, please share the video. I'm Kristen Smedley, and I am so happy that you're here with us for the Thriving Blind interview series. Remember, check out thrivingblind.com to get all the information about how to get up close to all of the mentors and members in that program. See you next time.